We will never, ever, ever forget the demise of the 2023 Eagles and how they crashed and burned in such spectacular and horrendous fashion. Your phone calls throughout the show at 215-592-9494 to discuss what we saw last night, to discuss what we saw the last month and a half, and discuss this football season, which we will discuss with great disgust, and we'll do it with you today. Richie Rich, how are you, pal?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, bud.
Avocados are poisonous to birds. I feel like everything
apropos. A bird, an
is
eagle.
Poisonous. Yeah,
a bird.
To me, in my birddom.
They eat that in November?
Today.
Early December, have some avocado? All right, look.
Maybe. Sure feels that way.
Here's the deal. Let me just say this. Couple ways to go here. An all-time disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the demise of this team, demise of this season, easily the worst collapse in Philadelphia sports since the 64 Phils. It's not even close. Like, it's right on the level. What we saw last night, ladies and gentlemen, and what we've seen the past month and a half was an embarrassment to professional football. It was an embarrassment to the city of Philadelphia. It was a meltdown of absolute biblical proportions. I actually thought last night was very easy to see coming in. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. I know not everyone wanted to hear it, but I thought all the signs were there going into the game, and all the signs manifested in the game. Bad defensive personnel, bad offensive scheme, broken offensive scheme, bad quarterback play, the worst coaching down the stretch of the season that I've ever seen in my entire life in Philadelphia sports. Let me say that again. The worst. I've seen Eddie Jordan. I saw Doug Moe. I saw Rich Kotite. This was the worst coaching I have ever seen in my lifetime. 45 years old, the worst coaching I've ever seen in Philadelphia sports. Dysfunction was everywhere, and broken team spirit was as apparent as 1 + 1 = freaking 2. So let me just say this, and I'm going to turn it over to John. We want to hear from you at 215-592-9494, because I'm going to give you the big picture of what I believe we saw last night and over the last month and a half. And I'm going to boil it, because there's a lot of ways to go, but I'm going to boil it down into this sentence. What we saw last night was the end of Nick Sirianni. And what we saw last night, in my opinion, is the beginning of the end of Jalen Hurts. The beginning of the end of Jalen Hurts, meaning it's going to take a couple years because, he's embarking on this new contract. So he's clearly going to be back and be the starter next year, and he should be. He should be the starter next year. But what we saw last night is someone who I would put at serious doubt that he'll be the starting quarterback in 2026. They're going to have to muddle through a couple of years. They're going to have to give it a shot with a different coaching staff. They're going to have to try to turn him around with better coaching. And that's all with merit. It's worth trying. But I'm just telling you, I've seen a lot of pro football, and I don't think he's the quarterback of the real future of the Eagles. Not the short term, the real future. And I think Sirianni should go, and I think Sirianni will go. And if I had to guess, we get that news either today, potentially during our show, probably later in the day, or perhaps on Wednesday. All right, John, floor is yours. Want to hear from everyone at 215-592-9494. An all-time disgrace. It's both shocking and not that stunning all at the same time. Because we saw, John, you and I literally saw it coming.
That was an absolute drubbing. I am not willing to say Jalen is unfixable, but Jalen needs fixed. Jalen must be fixed in order for this team to get where they want to go. We were outplayed. We were terrible. Outplayed to the nth degree, worse than we've been outplayed the rest of the season. We were outcoached. Drubbed. Drubbed's a good word for it.
Yep.
General overview of how I was feeling, like it was interesting in getting ready for the show, looking at some of the notes from my timeline of crap, as I'm calling it, from that game. We were 0 for 4 on third down in the first half. 0 for 4 on third down. I couldn't believe that. Just that we were so inept. We failed yet again at the 2-minute offense, Joe. Never have I seen such ineptitude in a 2-minute situation. We didn't run the ball. Like the one thing they were preparing to stop. Like, was that the double doozy super dupe that because we were so good at running the last time we played them, you didn't run it this time because you wanted to just blow their minds or something? Like, that gave us the best chance to win.
No question.
And you didn't. We didn't run it at all. You had Kenny G with 1 carry. You had DeAndre Swift with 4 carries in the first half. We had 17 rushing yards. That was unbelievable. Jalen carried it 0 times. But, Devontae had 4 for 111. That's good.
Because the 1 carry he had was called back?
Yeah.
Because he had that run, but it was old. Yeah.
Right. Also, in that first half, 63 yards after contact for the Bucs. That's just absolutely awful toughness and want to. Desire and tackling. These coaches will not take us to a postseason win. And this is a note that I made at halftime.
Well, they won't get another
because
chance.
It looks like the players have lost faith that these coaches can put them in the best positions, and I don't blame these players. Bowles is over there smirking. That 9:30 left in the third quarter yesterday, we had 24 passes and 7 runs to our name. Then all of a sudden it was, oh my gosh, first and second down.
Game was over.
Hand it to Swift.
Game was over.
Too little, too late.
Yeah.
Todd Bowles was sending 4 or 5 the whole game, blitz or not blitz. Remember, simulated pressure. How many times this season have we said on our show, simulated pressures give us trouble? The overload blitzes give us trouble. We don't have a blitz plan to account for these things. And it reared its ugly head. My gosh, whoever... Todd Bowles, his plan, 4 or 5, sending them. It distracted Jalen every single time. Yeah. It worked every single time. We didn't know exactly which of the 4 or 5 were going to come, and that threw everything into a complete tizzy. How about this stat? 5 minutes left in the third quarter, the Bucs have crossed midfield on all 7 of their possessions.
Wow.
So again, defensive ineptitude, and that was a mediocre offense. With a quarterback who was hurt. A hurt quarterback.
And they dropped tons of passes. They either dropped a bunch or Baker Mayfield barely just missed. Like, they had 5 to 7 misconnections by a hand's length.
Yeah.
They could have scored 15, 20 more points.
It's incredible. Joe, by the time that debacle ended last night, we never converted a third down the whole game.
Wow.
Like that is unfathomable.
It is unfathomable.
Wow, that is you want to illustrate ineptitude in today's NFL. Every team I was ever on, third down percentage, that matters so much. And basically we're getting blitzed or simulated blitzed every single snap because everyone can see that we can't handle it. But Joe, like you said, we knew it going in.
We know it.
That's what they were going to do.
And Sirianni didn't make any adjustments. And you guys know my theory. I think he doesn't.
How can you keep him?
You can't. I don't think he trusts Jalen to do other things. But what this game required was to try to do something else. Because it was so obvious. If you just do what you do, you're going to lose. We said that. We said
you'll be embarrassed.
No, you'll be embarrassed. And the only way, and I know sometimes you play peekaboo with your quarterback and you're trying to hide him. But it was so obvious that the only way the Eagles had a shot to win was to try something else. Sirianni was unwilling to try something else, and they take a massive L. Seltzer, and by the way, I want to hear from everyone at 215-592-9494. Also, we'll put out right now, out of the gate, today's Twitter poll questions of the day. They're both brought to us by Armin Chevrolet. The all-new 2024 Chevy Trax, it's arriving daily at Armin Chevrolet. It starts at only $21,495. Together, let's drive. Visit arminchevy.com. We have 2 different poll questions today, both apropos, both could be solved by the end of the day. Question 1, do you think Nick Sirianni should be fired? Should they can him? Yes or no? Question 2, do you think Nick Sirianni will be fired? Yes or no? You can vote at Sportsradio WIP on Twitter. Certainly you can weigh in as well. James, I know your Eagles' heart is heavy. Where are you today, my man?
I'm embarrassed, man. That was a disgrace. That was an absolute disgrace. It's the worst playoff performance, worst playoff team of my lifetime. How does the season that starts 10-1 become one of the least enjoyable seasons of our life? I mean, seriously.
I agree.
Felt like a 4-win season. Felt like 2020. Are you kidding me? I don't even know what to say about moving forward right now. I've been like, oh, don't fire Nick, like fire him, get rid of him. Like
so you changed last night converted you?
Well, yeah, it converted me.
Yeah.
Because that was a disgrace. I mean, they didn't even try and tackle guys. I mean, I don't even know where to go from here.
Obviously,
right now
players checked out.
Everyone checked out.
They checked out on the coaching staff. They checked out on each other. The words that they have said in post-game press conferences and media sessions on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, so hollow. It was as hollow as Carson Wentz's words. It was more hollow in many ways.
It is crazy what we just saw. Like the fact that Troy Aikman is saying on TV, like, that everyone in the world is watching this one game. Why can't they just puncture the middle of this defense? Why can't? And what he means, Joe, turn around. Turn around. Just look for the ball. Like, honest to God, like, recognize that it's a blitz, and it was a blitz, guys. It was a blitz. They're sending or simulating blitz every single snap. And I made note of the numbers. It was a massively high percentage. Yeah. So what Troy Aikman's saying is, when it's a blitz, just be aware, turn around. You want to puncture the middle of that defense? That means looky, just look over the inside shoulder, or just turn around at 5 yards, grab that ball, puncture the defense, take a drop step, and you got 20 yards clean, free and clear. And by the way, if that happens, they might not blitz the next snap.
That's right.
We never, ever looked for the ball. That's all you got to do. Holy cow, that was idiotic.
The whole thing, again, I'll say this, the worst coaching I've ever seen in Philadelphia sports. The worst. And, I have serious doubts about the quarterback. Obviously, the hope is you get a different coach in here and you try to do different things with Hurts, and you find out whether he can do different things.
With what we saw last night, and Hurts was horrible. Yeah. Horrible. But even with what we saw last night, it's like, how do you even... that was the worst coaching we've ever seen. James, they had no plan for anything. It's like, how do you blame anyone as a player when they've got that as their coaching?
Yeah, it's brutal.
Blame them all, obviously, but man.
Yeah, no, Sirianni was the worst, but I got big doubts on Hurts' future. All right, 215-592-9494. Look, we'll take your phone calls. It's going to be quite a show. Jaws will join us later. Brandon Graham will join us later. Seth Joyner will join us later. He was on fire on social media last night. I mean, Bradbury's tackling was as bad as it gets. We'll discuss it all. Your phone calls, 215-592-9494. Just an embarrassment to professional sports, professional football, and unfortunately us as Philadelphia Eagles fans. That was an all-time disgrace.